So what inspired you to first start writing your music?
Um, well, since a young age, I've always really been moved by music. Like, I think it's like I don't know, it's like a cosmic language, you know? It's like the language of the cosmos, vibrations, you know? The way everything works in a vibratory form. Even you and me, you know, everything, my voice, it's all vibration. You know, which goes back to everything is, you know, little atoms and it's all made up of atoms. Well, how do those atoms stay together? Because they don't necessarily mesh into one superstructure. They don't. They bond and they bond and they hold together, and those bonds are held together by vibration. So it's like everything is constructed of vibrations. If it wasn't for vibrations, we wouldn't, you know. So that's where music comes into play in my life. Is it moves me, you know. That's why music has the power to make you feel light as a feather, make you happy, or it can make you feel dense and sad, and because music really controls that. It's the vibrations. It can change your inner vibrations as a person.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, you can say you listen like statistically proven that they said that the country music they have a lot of people that actually commit suicide
Mm-hmm.
because it's such a downer type of music,
You got it.
and that's why a lot of country folks this year are really angry,
Yeah.
and that's why they don't have an open mind because they think that they got to live in a certain aspect of life because of the
That's true,
music that
yeah,
they listen
and
to.
it's kind of like it's like a belief structure as well,
Hmm.
just like religion, you know. But they're believing in the sake of country music, just like a lot of people listen to like rap and stuff like that. They want to live this gangster lifestyle because that's what the rappers, you know, exude. And same
Yeah,
thing with rock and roll musicians. I mean, every genre has its own, you know, its
yeah,
own following, you know. And
that's why
that's
you got to keep an open mind and like I mean, yes, I dress hip hop, I'm whatever, but I mean, I'm still who I am
yeah,
and what I
on the
want to
inside,
be, and
exactly,
I
because the external reflection is just a reflection. You know, it's not necessarily who you are. It's just a set of ideals that you've grown up with that you
mhm.
enjoy. You know, and it's the same with me. The reason I dress the way I dress is because of that. Because my own, we'll say, conditioned patterns from growing up, I've been conditioned to think that this is hip and with it. You know, and it's just the way it is. But I don't let it dignify how I talk
Oh
and
no.
how I act and how I treat people. You know, I don't put on a persona and such. You know, but it's hard to because we are 100% subjective. You know, it's really hard
Oh
to be
yeah.
objective. Yeah. And that like that genre thing, and that's why like with my music, it's like a mixture of genres. You know, there you can't really listen to it and say, oh well, that's no, you know, because
Yeah.
it's a culmination. You know, I use jazz, I use blues, I just kind of make it up as I feel it. You know, as the vibrations, the internal vibrations that I feel, I reflect it external into music, into into voice, into resonance, and it also transposes lyrically. So it just depends how you want to look at it. Just try to be as open as possible as an individual, and
Yeah, because I mean, you can look a certain way and talk a certain way, but as long as you're open minded and still willing to,
accept.
like, yeah,
Yeah,
accept what is and how it is,
that's right.
then you won't be those people that fall into that category of like the gangster lifestyle or the hillbilly lifestyle, whatever you want
Yeah,
to
you
call
don't
it.
have to be subjective to it. You can look
Yeah.
at it and be like, oh, well, I like that about it, so maybe I'll do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, it's just the way it is. You know, it's just the way it is. It just takes time for a lot of people to realize stuff like that. You know, and it happens with age. As you grow up, you start to realize stuff like that. You start
Hell
to kind
yeah.
of step outside and be like, well, hmm, I'm not exactly. I'm not who I think I am, nor am I who anybody thinks I am, you know, because the reflection you have of yourself as you see yourself in the mental image is not really, who you are or
Hmm.
what you are. It's kind of it's such a trip, you
Yeah,
know.
because a lot of people live in that mental state of mind, so they feel like they gotta
Yeah,
believe a certain way, act a certain way, talk a certain way, and walk a certain way.
yeah, and they don't have to.
There is no need for it.
No,
That's like you said, going back to living in the house with
exactly.
boundaries.
Yeah, and by having those boundaries, you can't accept what's outside of that. Like
Yeah.
you go up to, and I don't like to point fingers or anything, but you go up to somebody who's, we'll say very in depth in their belief, of religion and this and that, and you show them another possibility of, just a possibility. You're not saying that it's an absolute. You're just saying it's a possibility,
And then they
and they
get
get
freaked out
defensive.
by it.
They get scared.
Hmm.
It's because those boundaries, they can only do one thing, and that's provide fear to you, because you got to fear what's different, because if you don't know what there is, then you don't have control, and when you don't have control, you're afraid.
Hmm.
But if you can accept that you don't have control, and who cares, you know what I mean, then you can be happy for any instance, and that's one thing that I've learned in my entire life experience so far, 20 years of it,
Yeah.
is care about everything but worry about nothing, who cares, like quite literally, why worry about if there really is a God out there? I mean, you're here, you're now,
That's
Live
why
it.
you gotta live in the here and the
Enjoy it.
now. And
Yeah.
then if you try to live too far in the future, your life's gonna pass you by.
Yeah, because then you're living in the ideal of the
Wanting
future.
to be there,
You
and
got
but
it.
you will never get there
And that's
because
why a
you're
lot
not
of
in the
people
now.
fall short of their own plans is because they've got this entire plan set up. Okay, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do that, and they're thinking about the plan. So they're living in the plan. They're not living in the moment that it's taking to get into that action
Yeah,
because the plan never exists.
they're not making the action to
You got
make
it.
that
Because
plan to get to where
the
you need
idea
to
never
go.
exists. The only thing that exists is the actuality. That I'm here, I'm now. You're here, you're now. We can take the steps it takes and know them, but don't live in the idea of where we're going to be once we take those steps. Like, oh, well, one day I'm going to be a doctor and I'm going to drive a Mercedes and I'm going to jerk myself off 5 times a day. Like, who cares about any of that, right? Materialism is materialism. I mean, I enjoy it. I'm not going to say I don't, but that's just from a societal standpoint. Because if you want to, we'll say, somehow co-mesh, if I want to find a mate in my lifetime, I mean, I'm not going to be a bum. Because I really don't care. I would be a bum. But in societal terms, you can't ever really get anywhere. And if you want to actually live a life to where people aren't consistently damning you, you need to have money so you can go seclude yourself and live the rest of your life out with not having to worry. If it's the societal's need for money and all that, that we have to have
That's
money.
what makes the world go around.
Because if there were no money, we don't have we wouldn't have a government. We don't have any of that. But we do, and we have to make do with what we have. Just because it's not our own beliefs and we see through it doesn't mean we still don't have to abide by it.
Exactly.
We can't sit there and rebel, and that's kind of funny too. Like, people always protesting. Protesting is only going to get you so far, because they probably want you to protest, and that's why you're protesting. They need conflict. Without that goes to terms of absolutes. Well, with every good there has to be a bad. With every it's like with every ugly there has to be a good looking. It's just, you get it. It's just, there's no such thing really. It's all just is, and there's no such thing as this and that. It's just, it all was one in a sense because
Because it is what it is.
that's right. It can only be what it is. It can't
Be
what
nothing
you think
more.
it is,
Yeah.
because what you think it is just an ideal in your own mind. It's just a thought. Nothing could ever just be a thought. It is what it is. Like, this is an amplifier. No, well, that's just a name.
Yeah,
like,
that's just
words are words, and that's what's funny too. Like, you cuss and you're like, oh, fuck this. Well, why do you say? Why would you say fuck? Well, fuck is a word, just like and or is. I mean, there's many we'll say antonyms for fuck. I mean, it's so many different things. It's just like a term. It's just a word, and it becomes a part of your language. I mean, it's just all language is just noises strung together to form communication. So you can communicate anyways. The only true form of communication is that vibration that I'm saying, that feeling, like body language.
Yeah, body language.
Yeah. So I don't know. That's my opinion.